Here we are with Rowena, and I thought always that you are in the UK, but you are not in the UK, I assume.
No, I'm actually in Belgium,
Ah, you are in
but
Belgium.
I'm from the UK
Ah,
originally.
okay.
Yeah,
So my
yeah.
first question would be like in medias res to jump to the middle. That how got you to this path, to this not non-existing path of spirituality. What was the beginnings of your journey? Which books, which gurus, which directions, which methods, and how did you end up with Liberation Unleashed? Because that was the place where we got to know each other. When I was my guide, who guided me through this process of looking and seeing that there is no self, which is a very, very exciting journey. And yes, tell me about your past, and then the second question would be that what is this kind of realization for you? What how you experience it in your life, and what does it mean to you to being enlightened? Let's say so. I really hate these words, but I don't have other words for it.
Yes, well, I would say that also I don't associate really the word the E word. I don't that doesn't jive with me at all.
But there's an A word which is even worse, the awakening.
Awakening, I don't know. I just no, I sort of yeah, I mean because it's yeah, it's difficult to find the right word. But so it started, I think, a long time prior, but I was much more into sort of spiritual things, and I was doing energy healing and things like that. But there was one time that I went to see a therapist, and because I was having some issues with my marriage, and I was telling him how I was trying to be a good wife, blah blah blah, and he said, "Oh, you spent your whole life being a human doing. Now you have to learn to be a human being." And he gave me Eckhart Tolle's book,
Oh,
and so
it's
I went.
exceptional.
It was, and I went back and I read it, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, yes, this is it. I think I saw him once more, and I said, "Do you have any more books like that?" Because I had no exposure at all to the exploration of the self and non-duality. And I think he gave me a book by Osho, and I said, "I don't think I need to come anymore." So that sort
Oh,
of started.
it
That
was quite
started.
fast.
Yeah, it was very fast. And then eventually we did start seeing each other on sort of meditation like groups. I mean, our paths crossed. Um, but then yes, I think I just became really interested, but I had no clue about, where I would go to. I watched um, Rupert Spira videos and anything, Muji, lots of Muji, um, lots, Tony Parsons, like anything somehow. I don't even know how I found the people that I watched. But I was following this path, but I didn't even know what I was following. It was just, it seemed to be. Yeah, I had a very good friend also who was obsessed with becoming enlightened, and she seemed to be way more evolved than I was. So I sort of was looking up to her and thinking, oh, well, she probably will be, but um, and oh yes, and then we did a training together, something called the realization process. And I was living in the States, and this lady, she was awakened, realized, and it was called the realization process, and it was sort of based on a Buddhist form of embodiment practice. And so there were some experiences there of no self coming, going, but she didn't give any information about that, and it was just curious. And I wasn't somebody very brave to just say what just happened. Something happened, and so I didn't say anything. And then I was reading a book, and it just had a guide of self-inquiry. It said, "This is how you do self-inquiry." So I started to do the steps, and it was actually a bit like the LU process. Is can you find a self? Do you know where to look for this self? And it said, look, can a self be found in the thoughts, and can a self be found in the feelings, and to go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And I had my eyes closed. And then when I opened my eyes, just everything had, in a way, sort of disappeared, or I had disappeared. There was just this, yes, there was no more sense of Rowena, just there was an environment that felt very fluid and sort of spacey and strange. And it was like, what do I do with this? Luckily, I was on my own. And what do I do with this? This is so strange. And, but I sort of managed to, it was a bit like, I don't know, I was managed to sort of function a little bit, and went to sleep, and then woke up and it was still like that. But I sort of, and I luckily didn't have too much to do, so I sort of just wandered around, and a few more days, and then I spoke to a friend, and they said, "Oh, well, it sounds like you've had some sort of awakening. I know somebody that you can talk to." So I called this person, had a message. It was, I suppose, about 2 weeks later, and I said, "This is going on." And so then she said, "Oh, well, you've had an awakening experience." And I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to function?" She just said, "Function normally. It's fine. It's fine. And don't worry about it." Because I said, "I really feel, I feel completely discombobulated, detached from everything." And everything was sort of, yes, I think I felt a bit like on a trip, everything was sort of funny, but I knew it shouldn't be funny, but it sort of everything was funny, nothing stuck. But there was a little voice saying, "Oh, you've got to function." And then little by little, the everything sort of started functioning more normally. And at the same time, yes, when the awakening type moment, first awakening, I would call it, really happened, there was also a very big relaxation in the body. It was like all the mental processes that had all of a sudden been hacked. The body, there was a huge relaxation, so it felt like yes, a sort of coming home into the body. And then, yeah, I carried on, I think, looking and or finding wanting to get more details, really.
How would you describe this state? Just for 1 second, let's go back to this so-called state. That how would you describe why was it funny, or how were the thought process in your,
Well,
was it
really,
slower, or was
yeah,
it
there was very little thought processing going on. There
so less
was
thoughts?
Yeah, there were less thoughts. It just felt very, in a way, trippy, I suppose you could say. I mean, very, very strange. It just felt very strange. And to be operating when the contracted sense of self, and with all the thoughts processes going on, saying you should be doing this, you should be doing this, and this happened, and memories, and all the things that go on constantly, all came to a grinding halt. And so there was nothing, there
Mm.
was no, and there was no sort of sense of any continuity. It was just movement in space, and there was able to, eat and do all the things, but it was there was a very yes, a very but there was no one there was no one there, as
So
it
it
were.
was
I
not.
wasn't there the way I had
Mhm.
been there before.
Mm. So also the senses, it was not centralized anymore. So there was not a
Yeah.
seer and a scene, but
It
more
was
of
just
a
moving around in a sort
process.
of sea of um of experiencing.
Mm. Mm.
There was, but um, there was still, thoughts that, I'm in of being in a room, and there was being in a room, and
Still labeling and
there
still.
was still some labeling, but all the self-talk
Mm.
had disappeared.
And emotionally, how did you
Well,
experience
emotionally
this?
felt just very open, and very, um, yeah, light-hearted,
Mm.
very, very, just
Playful or
it
childlike, or how would you describe it?
just felt very, yeah, very, I think not necessarily playful, but just it felt very light. There wasn't this sort of heavy engagement with everything that in comparison, it was just a sort of flowing through. Um, and it wasn't like a full open heart bliss experience. It was
Mm.
more just a beautiful experience, really. Just feeling um, a lightness to life.
Was it somehow a rediscovery of your of the world, of your surrounding, rediscovery, or
Was there a rediscovery? No, I don't. I don't. It was just an annihilation of something that I had taken myself to be, and the story and the sense of it was gone, and there
Mhm.
was a huge relaxation. So it was that part. The environment pretty much rested the same, except that every time I woke, when it was full on, I woke up and it was like, I woke up in a wonderful mood, and everything was just so bright and light, and yeah, sort of happy in a way. Yeah, it felt really nice, and that it continued for a little while, and then gradually it faded away, and then there was more sense of the sort of self feeling of the self structure, or the body, and the contraction was coming back, um, little gradually. It felt more normal. Um,
And could you share this with the people around you, or?
no, I didn't share it with anyone, um,
Mhm. But
because
did they
I
saw
did.
it on you that something's not quite right? Or did
I
you had
only
communication about
only
this?
the one friend who I shared with, and who then I then spoke to, because I didn't have anyone else to share, because I'd already been interest in on that path, and the people, my friends that I have, um just aren't they it's not anything that they're interested in, so the general people,
Mhm.
so there wasn't anyone to share.
And after this very intense, how long was it? Two weeks?
Something like that, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
And after it's you rebuild yourself in the normal way, was there any doubt that's in you?
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know what there should be or not should be or not be. But then, so then I'm not very clear on the timeline, but sometime after that, and I don't know if it was like 9 months later or so, I came across LU, and I think I bought Ilona's book. Um,
Gateless
Liber
gate
no, it was
crashers.
the
Right.
Liberation Unleashed book, and I read
Ah,
that.
she has two books. Yes, yes.
Yes. And then so then I went to the forum and asked for a guide. And so I went through that process where I started to understand a little bit about what was going on, about in the inquiry. So it seemed very straightforward, the questions, and I did that. And then I went through this gateless gate, sort of the checking, the questions that they check. And yeah, just sort of carried on with life. And I think that was when, yes, and just carried on with watching YouTube videos. And eventually I came across Angelo Delulo and his channel, and then heard about the work of there was a lady he interviewed once called Pernilla and Todd. So then I became interested, followed her with her for some
The
time.
the feathers
And
method
and also,
and
yes, and
feathers.
her work with the fetters, which is looking into the becoming more and more subtle degrees of identification. And so I would say it's been from the beginning, from doing the LU process, which was maybe I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, 4 years ago, perhaps now. Um, yeah, it's been more deeper awakening moments, and then returning, and then more work, like the unconscious work that comes with it. And doing the feta inquiries confronts with situations where you're looking at what you desire, where you have desire for things, and then you do an inquiry into what you're desiring or what you have an aversion to, what you don't want. So you're watching the push and pull of your old patterns, and working on them to realize that actually there is no need to be reacting one way or another. It's just a pattern that needs to be seen, that there's no reason.
Mm.
And then, so the first fetters are towards desire and ill will, and also looking at trauma. And then it goes into looking at it into subject and object. Where is the subject and where is the defining line, the boundary between the object? So is there actually a subject, and is there actually an object? And each time there's subtler levels of identification to look at. So it's a sort of structure of looking into identification. And
It
so,
has more of a structure than LU.
well, yes, Aliu literally is just showing that there is no independent self agent that chooses, that is running the show, that has any ability to do anything and be separate from everything else. So it's just showing that, and
Mhm.
then these other inquiries take you in deeper. into the realization.
But is there anything to work on? Because I have this feeling that we work on these things and have this all these phrases and words like trauma and dark night of the soul and self-inquiry and etc. that it's so deeply rooted that we have to work on these things, that we work until we get it that there is nothing to work on.
Well,
Or I don't know.
yeah. Well, I can only go from my experience, and that is whenever there is a sensing of, mostly with me, it's a pushing away of
Mm,
something, fear responses
mm,
to things, or it's in the body and the body is reacting, and then there's a story gets created that that can be created over a situation. But my focus, so even quite recently, I live alone, but I went to the UK for over the Christmas and came back. And all of a sudden, having been with other people, I was alone again. And so I got back and I could feel the energy, the energy in me was, and it was like, oh, I'm alone. Oh, I'm alone. And so the inquiry then was,
alone or lonely?
uh,
Sorry.
well, it was not I'm lonely, it was I am alone. And so then the what was worth inquiring about was, well, how do you know you're alone? How does it feel to be alone? Because when there are these statements that come out, that I am alone or I am happy, it's indicating that there's something, it's an interpretation of something going on in the body. So then there is something in the body, and when there is a sensation of aloneness, it brings a sense of separation. And so that's worth looking at, and looking at what's going on in the body and being with that sensation, allowing it to be of this interpretation of aloneness, and realizing, oh gosh, that was created. It's like a pulling in to the environment to try to protect this sort of self-structure that was created when we were tiny children, because this vastness of space around us is too much. And so there's a desire for there to be other people to mirror, to say, yes, you are here. You're here, I'm there, you're here. And you get a feeling of, there's a feeling, it goes back to a really small child of, of being a self at the beginning of the self structure, being here. And so the aloneness from which you can become then start saying, yeah, I'm lonely. And society says, oh, it's a very bad thing to be alone and to be lonely, we've sort of constructed it from our need for the subject-object relations that we built up, attachment when we were little children, and then realizing, this vast spaciousness around us is actually not, we don't have to protect ourselves from. And so then the aloneness disappears, because you realize the aloneness is related to separating yourself away, and you can't separate yourself away anyway, because there's no possibility to separate yourself out of this experience. There's just this experience happening.
Well,
And then,
yeah, sorry.
yeah, just accept that thought makes a story up about it.
Yeah, it's just It's just a thought, or just the labeling of the thought, the labeling of the situation. I had this also after my divorce. I had plenty of time to being
Yeah.
alone, but I was not just alone, because that's a fact. If I'm sitting on the terrace alone, that I am alone. There is nobody else. But it doesn't mean that I'm lonely. And through this self-inquiry, I saw it that, oh my God, this the being lonely, this is somehow an automatic reaction of my brain, that I'm sitting here alone, and this is sad. This must to be sad, because there is nobody else here, just me, which is strange, because I lived my whole life with within my family, and then with partners. I was never alone. And so I had a big fear inside of me that being alone, somehow connected it with loneliness. And so I was sitting there alone on the terrace, and I realized that being alone is a fact. It's nothing bad or good about being alone. It's just being alone. That's what it is. But being lonely, that's a thought. That's a thought which generates this feeling in the body, which is usually a contraction around the heart area, or it's a kind of contraction in your body. And you are labeling this contraction with, oh, I'm lonely. So it's sad, it's melancholic, it's, you can use other labels, other words for it. And then when I realized it, I could let it be, let it come, let it be there, and focusing on the body, focusing on the experience. And as you just told before, it's gets much less stickier. You are not,
Yeah.
the mind is not building up this kind of mythology of being lonely. That's, oh, I am a guy that is a lone wolf, and I've experienced this in my childhood, and then so on and so on, and getting deeper and deeper in this mud. And then I usually got alcohol also in this state. Suddenly it was there on the table, an opened wine bottle. Then suddenly I realized that I played this kind of very sad, melancholic music from my past. So I was doing everything to be in that state. And when I'm honest with myself, I enjoyed it. So I enjoyed this kind of melancholic sadness which it brought with himself, this kind of loneliness. But after I saw this, that it's just a thought, it it reduced itself to being alone without this loneliness label.
And so when we go, like, this is sort of the way I guess I was looking at it, is actually they're looking at being alone is not really even possible, because then that would mean that there has to be a one separate from everything else. And so in inquiring into it and saying, where is this one to be found alone, that says it's alone, where is it to be found separate from everything else? And it can't be found. So then what is it that's saying it's alone? Well, this is where the inquiry gets paradoxical, because there are still sensations and there is still a body relatively. There is, and it's true relatively that there is not another person, but at the same time, when looking for for a person or for a self or for a me, nothing can be found, and so it gets confusing. But the place to focus on is the sensations in the body of this contracting away from being fully, that there being, it being very perfectly obvious that there isn't any separate person, self here. And so then there's loneliness isn't even, that's a state of mind, but actually looking into the being alone, what does that actually, mean? and the way I work is like if there's something that a thought that comes that is telling me something about myself, then I'll say, oh well, what's that pointing to in the body? Because the body, it seems like the mind is just interpreting all the time. And so we can say that's just a thought, which is perfectly good thing to do. But we can also say, oh, that's interesting. What's that thought pointing to see if there might be something in the sort of structure of the body that could be looked at. And the more that's looked at, we're looking at patterns of armoring and defensing and protecting, resisting. So each time there's some resistance to what's happening, these patterns are released, which releases a huge amount of contraction in the body that has been there for a long time. So there's like, I mean, I think there's sort of huge wellness benefits from that inquiry.
Yeah, I mean, when we don't have this resistance all the time towards these emotions or reactions of the body, then they can show themselves, because everything wants to be recognized. I think every emotion, everything wants that you look at it as it is, and
Yeah.
you are not pushing it away, you are not labeling it, you are not saying that I'm over you, I don't want to see you anymore, because somehow through this resistance it gets stronger and stronger. That's
Yeah.
my experience, because it believes, because you believe and it believes through you that it is existing and it has a right to exist. It has a right to be here because of this resistance. And you are not resisting it. You can say that, okay, come, look, come at me, hit me, be here. I
Yeah.
will look at you with love, with compassion, and then you are realizing it, and somehow this entity, this emotion realizes itself somehow that it is not real. And
No, it's really just trapped energy that
yeah,
has been held in the body and suppressed. Um, Through all, like beliefs, a little belief of a small child, like I never ever want to experience that again. I have to avoid that at all costs.
yes,
And
it's
so then there's
avoidance. Yes,
body armoring. And so little by little, there's no more avoidance. There's a look like, no, I'm going to look. And it seems that organically what needs to come comes gently if it's not, pursued aggressively, allowing life to present um, whatever needs to be looked at. And it just sort of is for me, it's like a continuing, um, I suppose you could say, call it a process, but it's not something that's sought. It just arises, and then if there's something that arises, then there's an all sort of automatic reflection, like, oh, there's something to look at there, and so then that work gets done.
yeah, and you realize that when you look at it, you won't die, because
Oh yeah,
and you won't get crazy, because a lot of people, I mean, during my family constellation, in the groups of these family constellations, I see that people are either very, I mean, they have this fear, and the fear, as I see it, has two main sources. The one is that if I look deep enough, then I will get so sad, I will start to cry, and I can't finish crying, and I will lose my mind during this sadness, during this state. I will get crazy. I will lose my mind. And the other one is related to this, that I will die.
Yeah.
So I will be so sad, so crazy that I will just commit suicide or just die in this heaviness, in this burden. It will destroy me.
Yeah.
And if
And
you have the experience that it won't, then that's, I
yeah,
think, wonderful.
yes, I think that those are old, belief patterns, and also not really once the work has started, and that then there's seems to be like a, a curiosity and also a trusting in how the process goes of like I can look here and you start with gentle things like I want to have another coffee and then you look into the wanting to have another coffee. Okay, where's that coming from? Where does that wanting start? And you can look at, how the body's reacting when you think I want to have another coffee and is there something in here that's, causing the wanting to have another coffee? And you can then see, oh, well, there's a sensation going on. Something happened, there's a sensation, and then there's a thought, but they're not actually linked together. It's just they've been sort of assumed that they have to
Mhm.
go together, and so you can then the sensation can flow past, and then there's a freedom that comes of like, oh, well, no, I don't need to have another coffee. Whereas before it was like, I want to have, and so you can start seeing how these play out in gentle ways. And you do that, keep doing it in a gentle way. And so then a confidence comes that I don't think that I think the body mind intelligence has such a great intelligence that generally, if you don't try and trigger it too much, that it comes in a fairly gentle way.
Yes, I think it's just you can't force this, or you just have to be very gentle with yourself and caring, and somehow it brought me a lot of self love, this whole process with this gentleness, that I'm really much more understanding with myself, much more, although there is no self, but
Yes,
I
yeah.
can't talk about this in another way. So with this guy, so with the stories of this guy and emotions of this guy, so I really,
Well, more and more people talk about, and I think it's a good angle from a neurological perspective of there being constructed neurological loops going on that of the mind and the thoughts and that have been conditioned into the body that worked, and that it's a deconstructing process of neurological loops going on.
it's a rewiring somehow.
Yes, like a type of rewiring of the system that needs to be done very patiently. And whether or not that's just a theory, but it makes sense.
I mean, Ken, I don't know if you know Ken Wilber.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Ken,
Oh, yes, yes,
Ken Wilber comes to mind when it comes to waking up or awakening, the relationship of waking up and self-inquiry, or that's he says that optimally you have to wake up first to
yes.
this state that there is nobody here, and then the resistance is it's much less, and then he has this stages like wake up, clean up, grow up.
Grow up,
and
exactly.
and this
Yes,
is
yes,
also my experience that it's maybe, yeah, of course, when you see it from a very above, there's nothing to work on, there is nobody to that does things. But as a person, from the personal view, still there is this self-inquiry going on. There are always deeper levels
Yeah.
or parts of life what you didn't experience till now. For me, it's I was in a very, very long marriage, for example, very, very long. I mean, for me, it was very long, 12 years. Uh, and for me, for example, the relationship with my body, the sexuality, for example. So I never discovered it. And it's now it's much easier and freer to discover it than before, because I don't there is no belief in it that I have to prove something. I have to be somebody which I'm not, or I have to lie, or I have a work to do. I have to function this and that way. So it's much more relaxed, much more honest, and this is with everything in life.
Yeah. And that, you make such a, make an important point too, especially when it comes to beliefs in body and how we should be. And in this world of being bombarded by, um, not you by social media and all these things people can do with their bodies, which are all AI generated. I think it really is pointing us to get real with ourselves, because otherwise, we're conditioned to have all these beliefs about the body and how we should behave, and gender issues and things like that, and all these ideas that come and sort of, yes, get instilled in us, and then to be free of all of that is just, it's huge.
How is it your experience? Tell me an example when somebody is triggering you. I mean, attacking you in a way which really hurts. It's really painful. How was it back then? Like, let's say, if there is a if there would be a linear way that before realizing the no self and after the realizing, how how would you describe before, when somebody, I mean, somebody close to you, your mother or your friend or somebody told you something which went really, really deep and hurt
I
you in a very deep way?
I internalized. I internalized, and I went in. Yeah, I would be very hurt, but I couldn't, wasn't able to feel anger at all. And after awakening and after doing work, there was much more of a feeling, at least of sometimes of anger expressing itself. But otherwise, being able to have the full feeling of the emotion, not needing to react, but just to stay with it, because it was much freer. There was a much free flow of energy, so that then the situation could be looked at and realized there wasn't a need to hold on to the situation and to, like before, that person said those things to me and they really hurt me, and how could they do that? That would went on, and then now it's yes, it's sort of disengages and moves through the system very quickly without okay, like a year ago, there was a lashing out with a family member, but it sort of went through very quickly. And then, and I thought, okay, all right, she's triggering something that is something's believed in that. So it offered an opportunity to look at what I was reacting to at that time. So, yeah.
Did it have an impact on your relationship, like, for example, with this family member or with other ones that you, in the
Well,
communication?
for me, but she's still, she has she has her sort of way about how people should be, and so I don't really fit maybe that model, and that hasn't changed. In fact, it's probably got worse, in some ways, because ever talking a little bit about, well, there isn't actually an actual self in charge, that was met with huge fury. So
But did this change your communication towards
no,
people? I
no.
mean, are you
Well,
more freely expressing your...
I think I just one time I was, maybe keen to talk about it a bit, just and then I realized that there's not much point, It's because unless people have a perspective on it and are interested, there
Mhm.
isn't any point. So now I, I don't I don't really bring it
I,
up.
I just don't, I'm not mean this bit just only about awakening, but about your emotions. I mean, if there is, for example, anger or something, is it easier for you to communicate this kind of, or jealousy, or any kind of?
Well, my approach is that everything is mine. So, I mean, unless somebody has really done something, that they've done something, but if it's just they're voicing an opinion or they're lashing out, they're entitled to behave like that. And so if I got a problem with that and I take it personally, then that's for me to look at because I'm
Mhm.
taking anything that I take personally is or could take personally is for me to look at. If they've actually done something that I didn't like, then I could say, listen, I don't like it. I don't agree with the way you handled that situation, which is different. But if it's, personal, um, yeah, if they've done things that I take personally or that they should have asked me, then I would either say something much more easily, but mostly it's like, what am I actually reacting to here? Is there something, what is it that makes me think that that somebody's doing something to me type of thing? It's like just looking at projection all the time.
That's what in these circles we call selfing. This, when
Exactly,
you see
yes.
this, that's selfing again. And
Yeah, it is selfing. You can say that. Otherwise, you can just say that's just another loop, self-protective, adaptive looping system. You can name it whatever you want. It's just there are plenty of them that keep going until they don't, I suppose.
and how is it with you and the people? I mean, I had this, I have this experience that seeing my myself as it is, or I know myself, so I know others also quite well. I would say that I recognize the quite easily the source of their suffering, much more easier than before, because somehow it is connected. That I know this guy, this here, and so I easily, much more easily get to know the root cause of suffering or of the problems of the others. And I had this savior phase where I I just saw it, that what causes it, and I really wanted to save all these people and wanted to bring over this message, because I have the experience that this, that's also a stupid word, but this works. I mean, this no self thing is working somehow. Before it was just always searching for another thing, always repairing a hole on the barrel on one side and then the water flow out on the other side, and it was always something to look for, always something to search for. It was never enough, it was never okay what is right here. I wanted always something more. And I see this procedure in my clients, I see this in everybody. And yeah, it took a quite a time to realize that all this is fine. So it's just an experience of the same thing, like which experiences this persona it experienced the other one. So uh, suffering is also part of the game, and it's quite okay.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And at the same time, if there's curiosity as to why there is some suffering and pushing against um, reality, whatever's arising, then it can be just seen to be suffering like that, or otherwise it can be say, oh, I wonder why there is a pushing back here. Why does the need, is there a need to push back? Why is this being taken that it shouldn't be like this, you know, which is going back again to this aversion, looking at the aversion of experiencing reality. So there's two approaches, you know, it's like, yes, it just is what it is, or otherwise curiosity saying, oh, I wonder why there's a reaction here.
Do you work as a helper, or do you work in a total different area?
As a guide, as
As a
a
as a
I do some
with people, or
mostly I just do some guiding on Liberation Unleashed. And otherwise I don't have like a like a therapy type of business or anything.
so this is not your profession, or you?
No, no,
Hmm.
no, no. I would love to, like you, I would love to maybe do some more perhaps some guiding online or and also the process of the NPA, which I think can be really helpful for people, whether they're on this path or not. But I haven't really found the way to, yeah, to be able to share that because I'm quite media shy, you know, the thought of, yeah, just getting out there nowadays is just with all of
Yes.
this onslaught of shorts and this and that and
Yeah, it
yeah.
requires a kind of attitude, which was also quite strange
Yeah,
for me. I had to learn this also because I'm also not born into this
yeah.
word, and now I'm doing it. I started TikTok and YouTube and so on,
Well, good for you. I think that's fantastic.
and it's sometimes a burden because you have really to do this, as you just told before, these shorts. Everything must be very
Yeah.
very, very short, very catchy, these
Yeah.
catchphrases and formulate, and very also a bit dumb, I must say, just very to speak in a way that also to use words that everybody understand. Don't use foreign words. Don't use long sentences. And for me, this was very difficult because I come from a circumstance or come from a past which is a bit more intellectual. I talk a lot. I use a lot of strange words, also in Hungarian. And to lose all that, it was quite a time. And I'm
Yeah.
still, it's still in this process to make it more, simplify it even more, make it shorter even more. And somehow it's frustrating. Something gets lost in this process, but also it's somehow very creative. It's like writing a poem. How short can you be, how simple can you be, and yeah, how and meanwhile staying authentic and not forced and not acting, to find your own voice in this. So this can be also quite a process, like a self-inquiry process, like you to being on
Yeah.
stage and to
Yeah.
do this social media thing. It's everything is about you, and everything is about knowing yourself. And I started to enjoy this after a while. Of course, I won't lie, it's a good feeling when people are watching it. It's a very heart warming feeling when they are reacting to it. And That's very nice, and it can be frustrating when you are playing ping pong, but there is only ping and no pong,
Yeah.
and and you are doing it for weeks or for months, and I think everybody struggles with this at the beginning. Mostly people who have something to tell, because if you are, I don't know, a 20-year-old teenage girl who has a nice body, maybe she skips this period after 2 days. But the middle-aged guy who is talking about family constellation and non-dualism, it takes a bit more to to get this attention of the people. So I've done it for months without any pong, just ping, and it was energetically quite a frustrating period. It was like I'm quite demotivating. Like I'm doing hours and hours something for every day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and nobody cares. And I know it's I'm not doing it because of that but still it's the goal of it is to get interaction with people, to reach people with the message. And if you don't get it, many people just stop doing it because it's just so frustrating. But you don't have to stop and do it, and maybe after some months, if you find your own voice, it will start to you will start to get views and followers, and especially TikTok. It's a very nice platform for this communication with people. Uh, even getting clients maybe who wants to work with you in a one-to-one session. So yes, I would just encourage you to do it. I mean, you are also, you can talk about this very authentically, and that's I think that's important, that you are in contact with your feelings, with yourself. You don't act as many do in this spiritual business nowadays. Uh, Everybody wants you to stop thinking, and there are these directions, who say that you have to stop thinking and you have to meditate a lot to reduce your thoughts, and thoughts are your enemies, and so on. And I will give you this method with you can stop your thoughts. And I
Yeah.
mean, this very, very strange things.
Yes, little by little, all the looking for ways to improve or change, they just fall by the wayside. It's like, oh, you just want to like be and then see what comes up and see if there's something that needs to be looked into, and then carry on with your life, however it's going.
One last question. I mean, how did this state of mind cha-
Orientation, maybe,
or
or,
orientation,
or perspective. Yeah.
perspective change in your perspective, or yeah, life experience, I don't know, change your relation to people. um, do you still enjoy the stories? Do you still enjoy the talking about many times about nothing? And um, how is it with relationships, for example? If you are looking at a man, how did it change, for example, this kind of attitude towards men? Did it change at all?
Um, That's a little bit of a hard one because of losing my husband only a year and a half ago. I can't say that I've had any situations like of dating or anything that I've been felt in a vulnerable situation or just yeah, I don't know, trying to get to know someone. Um, I mean, so. But otherwise, I think there's just generally a much more freedom and lightness towards life in all relationships. There was a period of when, on non-duality type of forums, like if there was a Zoom meeting and conversation, that there was that I would sometimes have an opinion about what some people were saying, and I would feel that that wasn't to myself. I'm just talking about to myself that I somehow that the conversation wasn't going in the way that I wanted it to go, and I found that it wasn't. Yeah, I had a sort of an agenda. I noticed. So that was, I thought, okay, well, what's going on here? What is it that's not allowing people to be expressing whatever they want to express, especially people who just say, well, there's no self and that's it. It's like, that's fine. And so there's always this looking back into identification and having opinions at everything. It's like to allow everything to be much more how it is, because there's no me thought about how things should be and how people should be. And if there is, then that can be looked at so that everybody can be free to say what they want.
You are still enjoying, sorry.
It becomes more enjoyable.
So you're still enjoying the stories, you're still enjoying the chit chat, the being together with people, and
yeah, I think more so, because there's a much more of a relaxation. Although at the same time, I notice that I need to have much more time. I love to engage socially, but then I also realize that I need the downtime of just sort of being quiet too, and just, yeah, chilling out alone. The stimulation of being with other people is really great, but then downtime is needed.
Yeah, I also have this experience that it was always a bit like this, but
Yeah.
in the last 2.5 years since this realization happened, I enjoy very much the time with myself, and somehow it can consume me very much when there are a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
somehow a lot of I don't know why. I mean, it's not rational. It's just energetically
It's
somehow.
energetic. It's energetic. If for sure, that's what I was going to say. Because I mean, for our conversation, we've been chatting for quite a while now. It's just an easy flow. It feels doesn't whereas with other conversations, although they can be enjoyable, they can be more heavy energetically. And then it's not necessarily so easy. And so then there's more of a need to somehow recharge the batteries or whatever.
Yes, because I have the experience that I also behave myself, or I'm functioning. I'm taking over some functions from my surrounding or from the people. So if somebody is very, very frustrated and closed inside of him or herself, then somehow this contraction, I don't know, I take it over. It flows also into my body, or I
Yeah.
also behave myself more frustrated. Suddenly I have more opinions. Suddenly I believe that it's important to communicate those stupid opinions, and yeah, I'm always a bit different. I'm with everybody a bit different. So, but still there is a core, as if there would be a core in this personality, and they are people with who I can outlive this core or be myself, let's say so, in a good way, and that's his more relaxed state. It fills me up with energy, and with other people where I just feel that I have to act or to be somebody because they have the belief to themselves that they have to act, somehow they it's like a Bluetooth device, this brain, that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get this information from his or her brain, that he's believing that he has to act, he has to be very masculine or very something, and this info suddenly arrives here at my device, and somehow I feel the same, that, oh, I
Mm.
have to
Mm.
act, I have to be more masculine or more, I don't know, this and that. and,
Yeah.
and when we detach, and then I needed 5 or 10 minutes to realize this, that, oh, what happened? I'm just so tired, I'm just so out of energy because I was acting, I was playing something which it's not the core of this character.
Yeah, I think it's it's like being fully conscious of playing the game compared with being a little bit pulled into the game and the game playing.
In the same, it happens in the
It,
same time. That's the strange
mm,
in it somehow, that
yes,
you
yes,
pulled in, but you are
yes,
aware that you are pulled in,
yes,
but you
yes,
can't get out of it in
yes,
that
yeah,
moment when you are with that person.
yes.
You stay there and you feel that it consumes you, but you still can't get out of it.
Mm.
And only when you leave this aura, this person.
Yes, it was interesting being over Christmas with my mum because, like most older people, I think it's natural. There's sort of a lot of complaining.
Yes.
And in the beginning, it, I found it sort of heavy to have to deal with. And I had opinions about that, and I could feel just like this, oof. But then, I did my own little process of uh, that not allowing her to be free to be complaining. And because internally, I was complaining,
That
and
she's
then all of a
complaining.
sudden I realized, oh, well, I'm complaining about her complaining.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I could see fully. And so then seeing that, then she was free to complain. And then I sometimes approached her and, I agreed with her when she was saying, oh, things are, but I was always agreeing with a lightheartedness. I wasn't agreeing, oh, yes, or I wasn't trying to argue with her because often she would say, oh, they, meaning the government or the this or the that, they are. And
Mm.
before I would often, it was in my sort of personality to rather challenge and her opinions because I said that's just somebody's opinion you're reading in the newspaper, Mum. You don't know for a fact that that's true. And so she would say, "Oh, well, I was just making conversation," and then that would come to a fall. But now it's just like, she can complain and I can sort of agree with her, but from a standpoint of humor that somehow lightens her because then there's no pushing, there's no push, there's just, um, you know, so it's always evolving, like the
Yes.
pinging and ponging.
Yes, that's the marvelous thing that in this, that there is no final state in this, I think.
Oh no.
I mean, that's final, that you can't make it unseen what you've seen already. So that's final. That's what in the sutras, that you can reach
Yes.
this final awakening. I never understood this.
Well,
What
final, I don't
the
know because I think, there's other stages, but everything there isn't anyone doing it. And if there was me that had an intention, like I might have a desire to want to go and climb some high, I won't say mountain now, but some high hill. Um, that's quite a possibility, um, but to achieve something as a person or there isn't that's not a possibility because there isn't anyone that can do anything. And if for the if there was somebody that thought that they could do something, they since we're trying to become less and less of somebody do I don't know how to say it, because it defeats the object of trying to completely remove any subtle remnants of identification by trying to achieve something, because already it's been seen that there isn't a separate somebody that's doing anything, and so you get into a loop of somebody trying to get somewhere, and then you're recreating what you're trying to get rid of in a way. I'm not explaining that very well, but so I think life brings where we go.
Yes, and in this process, it's my experience that I started to let everything in, let everything be as it is, and what is quite funny with relationships, that I don't care anymore what I'm saying, and I don't care anymore if the person is hurt or not. So I had also this period with my mother at Christmas, and I was just being very honest. I mean, for the first time, I was really telling her that about our relationship, and then that she's complaining a lot, and then that that we usually speak about things that are only the surface of life, like you have to bring the trash out, you have to do this and that, and it just came to me that the mouth was opening, and I was really, really honest about this. That I miss those parts of our relationship, of our lives, where we could have really, really deep chats during all the night, and then suddenly not just the body got old, but somehow the soul or or the perspective got old, and nothing else remains, just the complaining, just the surface of life, and of course she was quite frustrated when I was telling her this, but my experience is that every time I let this flow out, and that I let myself be really honest with people. Maybe it's difficult at the beginning. Maybe it's difficult when they are hearing this the first time, and maybe there is some arguing going around. But after that's she also calmed herself, and we could have a really, really meaningful conversation. So it's. Of course, it doesn't mean that I'm rude or that I'm a sociopath, and that I don't care how they feel. It's not that I'm not talking about that.
No.
So I'm still compassionate, and I still want them to. But I want that we see each other with everybody. If it's my friend, if it's my mother, it doesn't matter, or a colleague or somebody on the street. I want to be transparent. I don't want to play any roles or an acting. I want to. I know that it's impossible to see completely the other person, of course, because we are using words, we are using filters. I have thoughts about somebody who is standing in front of me, so it's impossible to be 100% accurate. But somehow, if I'm really honest with myself, I can be really honest also with other people. And if they don't get scared because of this, because for a lot of people, this is a bit scary, this kind of honesty. And I want to reach the level where we really see each other, to maximize this. I know that I can't be 100% sure, but to get to the maximum, that and to talk about my feelings and being transparent. And somehow I see that when I'm doing this, it's also like before with this Bluetooth, that when I have this signal, I'm signaling this to the other one, then also the other one is relaxing, and suddenly after a long, long time, they are honest with themselves and also honest with me. And somehow after months, we have a quite good conversation. So that is what I mean, that I don't care. With
Yeah.
I don't care, I don't say that I don't care how they are feeling, that I don't care that I'm losing something, that I'm opening up and I could lose something through this. I don't care anymore. So let's be it. If I'm losing a friend because of this, or losing somebody because of this, then it had to be like that. So maybe that's also a change in comparison to how I was behaving earlier. I don't know how is it with you, with this honesty or communication.
Well, I think I have I don't have such an extroverted way of expressing. Um, so yes, I'm sort of quieter, and so definitely, the only person I can really think of, having spent a long time with recently, was with my mother, and we, somehow through no effort of myself, there was the energy. She felt it too. I think we became attuned. Whereas in the beginning of sort of connecting, I'd come from Belgium and from being alone, and my mum had been alone, and there was a need for an attunement process. And then there was a flow and a much, greater connection and more of a delight. And I think I didn't really have to say anything, that I didn't really express my feelings in the same way that you did. It sort of came like that.
But you still care what people are thinking about you.
No, I don't.
Let's simulate a
No.
situation. If
Do I care about? No, I mean, uh, I can't, except for the last time that I think that happened. That was a year ago, where I did care, and because about something somebody said to me, but then I reacted to that. But afterwards, I saw that there was someone here who cared about what was going on, and so then I worked on that. So it was like she wasn't free to say what she wanted. I don't care, because people are free to make up. I have no idea what in the way what people think about me. It's none of my business. I don't know what people think about me. Um, Besides, they most of the, yeah, no, I really don't care what people think about me. But
but
then
you are not.
I don't go out of my way to be sort of disruptive, or wanting people to like me, or, I don't have any real agenda with anyone anyway.
So you're not restricting yourself because
No,
of because
no,
of
but I used to. I definitely used to. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to show that I was, had some
Mhm,
sort of qualities that probably needed to be, was sort of pushing in the front, look at me and whatever.
mhm.
But no, not anymore.
Yeah, I'm just asking because I'm really interested in this. How does it impact our normal life? I mean, our relationship with ourselves, relationship with others. I mean, this is my fascination about this realization that It's not a mystical thing. It's a very, very
Oh, yeah,
human,
no.
very human
But
thing.
it is
And
energetic, I think, because I think the lighter we are, we are. I said, I'm talking, I can only talk for myself, with this ongoing work of seeing where, there might be some judgment, or there might be some blaming, or there might be some criticism coming from me because I can't do anything about anyone else. Because everyone's being themselves, they are where they are because of their whatever, their genetics, their nervous system, their life experience. There's really nothing we can do to change anybody else. And but we do have, there's plenty of this, as you were saying, Ken Wilber, there's the growing up stage to do. There's plenty of opportunity to look, to say, oh, okay, well, why can't that person be free to express themselves in the way they are? Why does it have to be different? And I think that and then also what looking at what I'm wanting to get out of that person. Like I want them to have a closer connection, or I want this, and then finding that ultimately whatever I want from somebody else is actually something that I'm not connecting with within myself. So there's this endless, it's like, it's just so perfect because everything comes back here. Um, and so, yeah, so that's this intern, I don't really, sort of need to say what I'm feeling, because anyway, I don't even, whatever comes out of my mouth, if I say something that comes from a personal, it won't, if you, like you were saying earlier, if you ask yourself, is that true? Then you've realized you've already, hacked yourself, because you realize, no, it's not really true. And so then, then it's just like, so the inquiry process goes on.
I have this feeling that also with people and also with the feelings or what comes up, that it's much more less categorizing or not allowing that this can come through this. I can accept this thought, I can accept this emotion or that person, but I want to change the other person, or I want to change the other emotion. Somehow this duality between wrong and right, wrong emotions,
Mm.
wrong people, right emotions, this somehow it's mixed up, so it's not so dualistic. I don't choose anymore, so I let it be as it is. Also the emotion what
Yeah.
comes up, and also the people who I'm confronting with. I mean, it doesn't mean that I like everybody, or I must energetically I have to
No.
love the whole
Oh,
world.
no, of course
That's
not.
totally
But it's
bullshit.
allowing people to be without needing to change them,
Yes, and I'm allowing
because that,
myself to not like that person, for example. That also, that I don't have to like him. I mean,
no,
that's also fine, completely fine. Or if he doesn't likes me, that's also completely fine. I don't have to work on it that I get more lovable or likable for that person. It's just somehow it's so
yeah,
easy,
free.
much more easy,
Yeah,
freer, everything.
exactly. Yeah.
It's when it's like this, it's like this. It's like everything is gets more and more similar to the weather.
Oh,
That
totally.
that
Yeah.
that also the reactions here inside, and also the confrontation with the world, with the people. It's like much more accepting that. I mean, I don't get frustrated so much of the weather. Maybe a little bit sometimes, but it's not influencing my mood. and
No,
uh, and this is like the same. It's like a constant weather change. It's nothing more. And
no,
this
nothing more.
and all the rest, it's just the story, just the identification with it. And that's I think for me as a human being, I mean, I don't know what that means. It's just a word again, human being. But to live this life, this is most probably the main change, the biggest change, that I don't think I don't take anything serious, and it's just like a constant weather change. Clouds go by and rain comes, and okay, I'm okay with the rain, but it's not my cloud, it's not my rain. Or when the sun is
Yeah,
shining, it's a
it's
beautiful
not
day. It's not
personal.
like it's not
Yeah,
personal anymore. That I made it happen. Now I reached it. I'm so proud. For example, I
I
totally
know.
lost the connection with proudness. I can't. I'm like a frozen computer when people are saying this. Come to my place because I have a small retreat center, and people are coming here and asking that, have you built this by yourself? And it's amazing. We must be really proud of this. And then I'm staring there and standing there, just staring at them, really in a very strange way. That proud, and my brain is
Yeah,
trying
it
to
doesn't compute.
understand the word, but
Yeah,
I can't really understand it because
yeah,
I just can feel that I'm grateful that I can experience it, and I'm also astonished every morning when I go outside and I see that this center is there with the yurts and the buildings and everything. And it's like a feeling that it's grown out of the soil like a huge mushroom, and there is nobody here that has done it. It's just like I'm a vessel or an equipment that created this, but this does himself alone, and it's amazing, really.
that's wonderful.
So this proud, being proud. I mean, it's for what it completely lost its meaning. Anyway,
Hmm.
no, I'm a bit. I think I lost the thought train. Just stopped. Do you have anything else to share with what you would think it made a huge change in your life, or
Well, yes, it's made a huge change, but the thing is, you know, I never did anything, there's no, it just happened. It's just so yeah, the path being there of seeking and then, chancing at the right moment at the right time to read a book and doing that inquiry somehow, and all these things just arriving and happening, and um it's hard to know where anything begins, and it certainly doesn't end. So I'm just, yeah, really grateful that to follow this way.
what was the last inquiry what you made, or the last thing what you could let go
Oh, well,
in
it
recent
was,
recent times?
well, it was the inquiry into being alone, not lonely, but
Mhm.
being alone, and realizing that that was the sort of the looking into the feeling of it, and feeling the energetic quality of a drawing in, and then understanding that as a small child somehow it had been necessary, because had been necessary, and so realizing that I did it. And a small child wouldn't know what being alone was, but it was that drawing in to try to be separate somehow, to separate out from uncomfortable, from an environment. And so it was just a survival type of mechanism of drawing in that gave a feeling of, I guess, security type of thing from the sensation feeling of drawing in, or protection.
The need of being alone.
Well, and
Or
then, it's like all the self-regulating going on, but then there was the relating side too. I don't really know how it works, but what I realized was that being in this space, it was a habit of somehow making out that being alone, that there was, especially after the awakening, that there could be, that it would be possible to be alone somehow. Having been with my mother, and it's true that there was an apparent body, and there was an interaction and energetic interaction that was lively and enjoyable. And then all of a sudden, it's the energetic quality of having that removed, and also changing the location. There was a feeling all of a sudden of, I suppose, yeah, it's like almost about being like a type of withdrawal, energetic withdrawal symptom, if you like, that was sort of happened rapidly, and a reaction against it. And obviously other thoughts, but I wasn't really interested in the story about being lonely or this. I was focusing on being alone, and I am alone. And so I said, well, to myself, well, how does it feel? How does it feel to be alone? Because that doesn't make sense. And then I could feel, and then I just sort of sat with it, and then there was a relaxation, and then like a oneness with the space. And so there was no need to, there's an I am alone thought. So I could say, somebody could say, oh, are you on your own? Because I want to tell you something and I don't want, and I could say, yes, I'm on my own. But being alone, it was the energetic body that was feeling alone as well. There was an aloneness feeling. That was if that makes sense. So there was the rational thing, yes, I am alone. And then there was this energetic shifting and feeling. And that was what was being looked into. And then there was a relaxation there. And then there was no longer any, question about being alone wasn't a nice thing. Because before there had been oh, I'm alone, something to look into the body, what's the armoring going on here? Because it was being made out to not be a nice thing, and then that was dropped, and that was just like a couple of weeks ago.
I'm not sure I completely got it, but
well,
I have something similar, this shifting in and out that I can be when I'm the experience of being alone can be completely different. It can be loneliness. It can be something is missing, lacking.
Yeah, well, it was the something missing. It was there was a feeling at that time. So I'm not saying that there won't be another type of, but at that time there was something missing. But it was because of the energetic shift from being with somebody, then having driven and stuff, and then being by myself. It was the words, because the words are always pointing inwards into the energetics, right? And so that's what was being looked at, of like, oh, something's missing, I am alone, and it doesn't feel nice, but then it's like, okay, stop. What is it pointing to in the body, and into something needed to be felt. It just needed to be felt, and then to relax into the space. And then there wasn't a boundary made. There was no filter against, or protective filter.
I can't always differentiate between the sources, if these feelings are thought-based or if there is really something going on energetically with the body. For example, when so I can be totally fine with being alone, absolutely not feeling lonely or alone. I'm just sitting there or being, and then in the same situation I can have urges. I needs and or urges just rise up like from the body, that the body wants to be hugged or touched, or I don't know if it comes from my mind of it really is something like this, like a need of the body, that it's when it's nobody touched this body for weeks, then somehow at a point it's there is a, like when you have an empty stomach, you get hungry, and somehow very strangely energetically it also works like this, that you didn't get a good hug or a nice touch, or nobody was caressing you for weeks or months, then somehow you get needy, the body gets hungry, the body, I don't know how it works, but of
Yeah.
course it's more visible with sexuality, that's there are these sexual needs,
Mm.
but it's not just like that, it's intimacy, the need for intimacy, the need of human relationship, the smell of another person, the it's I don't talk about just relationships, it also can be with a friend, a good nice hug, or just being together, but it's somehow, I don't know, it really has, the body has these energetic needs, and it's not just food and water, and so it's I don't know, I really don't know how it
Yeah,
works.
I mean, totally, I think so because I always go back, and this is very maybe very simplistic, but I go back to um, a small child that's pre-verbal, and all these things in, they don't know what all these concepts are. They don't know about anything. It's learning. So first of all, there's body needs, and there's need for connection, and there's all these, basic needs for security and safety and survival that are being met. And then they become more sophisticated and language comes in. But there's this body and in its needs then can be communicated and the mind can start interpreting those needs. But I see, and I'm being very simple, but from the way I work is if there's thoughts coming that seem to be personal, that seem to be like complaining or pushing away or pulling towards, like, I really want to have that or whatever, then it's pointing to back here into the body. And that's my very simplistic way of working with things. And so, there could be a random thought all of a sudden. And in LU, we sort of there's an exercise where you flip your hand. I think there's
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
But all of a sudden, out of the blue, you have an urge to do something and you think, oh, that's a thought, that thought, and it's made me think that I want to do that. But actually, enough neuroscience has said that the thought is always coming afterwards. And there's all these things going on in the body from different parts of the brain and whatever. And all of a sudden something springs out. It's never, very rarely, unless you're getting very open to sort of receiving like something from intuition, but then you've already, that's coming normally also communicating with the body in a subtle way.
Yes, the thoughts are always, I don't know how many milliseconds later. So
Yeah,
the
exactly.
the recognition of what is happening, or that I am choosing this,
Yeah.
is always a bit later. So you already decided it, or the body, or I don't know,
Yes.
on an emotional level, you already know what will happen, what you will do, but it plays out itself, and you have also just this thought that somebody is doing it, makes you believe that you are doing it, that
Exactly.
you
Yes,
are
it's
choosing it, and that you have to do something. So for example, I let these things be as it is. So the body is needy, the body wants to hug, and then I'm sitting there alone. Of course, nobody hugs me, but then I'm curious that, okay, what will this guy do now that he gets his hugs? And then I'm suddenly sitting on the train and going to up to the city and meeting a good friend. And then I'm laughing at, oh, it played out like this. So somehow I don't have to decide. I don't have to struggle in my head that, oh, how to get out of this and how to find a person. I'm
It's
just
happening anyway.
I'm
Yeah.
just curious what will happen, what will I do, what will this person do,
Yeah.
what scenery or what scene comes in the movie next, because he needs something. It's like going, you are hungry, you go to the fridge immediately, and I don't think about it. It just happens so automatically, and it's not a problem. I mean, I had this bypassing and with these things because that I don't. I'm not allowed to feel myself lonely. I'm not allowed to have these needs, these body needs.
Yeah.
I'm over this.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking sattvic and I'm levitating all over this human being
Yeah.
and
There's
human
nobody to
emotions
have
and
any needs.
yes,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
it's somehow a weakness or I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's the sort of, yeah, that bypassing
I
spiritual
had
ego
also this
stage.
period.
Yeah, I think it's normal. It's just like all those processes you go through, different
Yeah.
stages.
But now
Yeah.
it's when it's there, and then
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
looking for it that how to satisfy it. I mean, do I satisfy it, or if not, what will happen if not? What will happen if yes? So it's
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Ah,
So we talked a lot.
we did.
I will stop the recording now. Thank you very much for this nice conversation.